Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is a late September garden tour in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B. I'm just going to show you my front garden space, still popping with color here in late September. I'm not going to name everything that you're going to see in this video, because I did a series of videos recently where I literally named every plant out here if you want to go back and look at any of those. One interesting thing that's going on is my summer color is slowing down some. The vinca here, as you can see, out by the curb, the zinnias that are over here to the right. A lot of these things, the days are getting shorter, so they're starting to go to sleep. But this was planted with intent so that as those things decline, other things can come in and take their place. And so, as an example, here's a Mexican sage that is just getting started here at the beginning of or late September going into early October. One other example of that just past the sage is that that fall blooming aster. That's a perennial aster, and it will it'll bloom for weeks. It's got lots and lots of buds on it. The pollinators absolutely love it, so I'm extending the season that I'm going to have pollinators. A lot of my salvias will keep blooming until we get a frost. Here's a big bumblebee in front of me right here. As you can see, this is really a big part of my motivation for the way that I garden, is to invite these butterflies and moths and wasps and all kinds of interesting flying things into this landscape. I love watching it during the day. There's a Verbena bonariensis that the pollinators absolutely love, and the birds also love to take the seeds on this one as well. Hibiscus in the background, looking great. Up here in this butterfly bush, which is 8 feet tall right now, you can see all the things swirling around it. I hope that really shows up how many things are actually alive and flying around in this garden. So I'm going to start over here by the driveway and take you through the middle of the beds. This dedicated annual bed that I have through the middle will eventually be converted to pansies and snapdragons, and tulips will be planted in here, but there's still a lot of things blooming, and a couple things have come out, but the things that are still blooming are still drawing in the pollinators. A few things to point out: my Mexican sunflower kind of splayed open during a hurricane, but it's still blooming beautifully with those bright orange flowers, and the bees absolutely go crazy for it, as so many other pollinators. I mean, we're not talking about just bees or butterflies when I say this. There are moths and wasps and all kinds of interesting creatures. This celosia actually came back from seed. It's one of the more popular items in the garden today. Down below it is an abelia, a Miss Lemon abelia, and it's now in full bloom. I don't see many things on it right this minute, but it is a popular item out here. It's kind of an interesting thing. You'll notice that sometimes it's they go to some plants in the morning, go to some plants when the sun is up in midday, go to others later in the day. But you can see how hard they're working those flowers. Moving back this direction, my coleus during the season, it'll stay trimmed and I won't let it come to flower, but once we get to late summer, early fall, allowing these to come to flower will also be another source for pollinators. Nothing on it right now, but different times of the day, like I say. I've got this, another thing I'm trying to invite into the landscape is not just pollinators, but also birds. And so that white beautyberry is now full on colored up. It bloomed all summer and the bees were on it, and now here we are in about the start of fall, and the berries are ready for the birds anytime they're wanting to take those. Here are some additional celosia that actually came back from seed from last year. The yellow flowers are Melanpodium that came back from seed from last year, and they've just been allowed. Others came up and I pulled them out, but these are ones that were allowed to stay in place, and you can see all the activity that's on them. This lantana behind the coleus is interesting. This was a big giant zinnia bed with big giant zinnias, and what we all know about zinnias is if you plant them in April or May, they kind of burn out by late summer. So these were underplanted with these lantana. So Once the zinnias came out, the lantana had sunlight, and the lantana has taken over this bed very, very quickly. And again, it's just absolutely covered in life right now. Coming up this path, I've got this vinca, and while the vinca, you won't see very many bees on it ever, the hummingbirds love to come in, and they're just perfect flowers. Absolutely perfect flowers for the hummingbirds. A few more of these volunteer celosia right next to the stone walk. Hopping over the sidewalk, an example from yesterday that was exciting to watch was hummingbird on the vinca, then pops up here on this salvia, and then I see it move over here to the African basil, and the African basil is just covered in life all the time. If you stare at this long enough, you'll count hundreds of bees over just a few minutes. Absolutely amazing how much they love that plant. Hummingbird leaves the African basil, goes to the pentas, which there are white and pink pentas that still look fantastic, and then goes from the pentas over here to the gomphrena. Spends a little time on this gomphrena, and then I was expecting to see it hop onto that lantana, but instead it went to this other salvia that's planted here, and then back here there's this Cestrum parkii that I've shot a video for recently, and it was on that flower. So just hopping around, it's just really fun to see. How active they can, with this many things to choose from, they'll just hit them all. Coming back to the other side of the fence where we started, there's a Caryopteris. This variety is called First Choice, just starting to bloom. One of the absolute favorite plants for pollinators in the late summer into early fall. One of my absolute all-time favorite shrubs. It's just a great looking shrub, and then it blooms so much later than everything else. Agastache still in bloom over here. Another thing to draw hummingbirds into the space, or any pollinator really, but hummingbirds especially. I will point out the little strawberry-like fruit that forms on the Chinese dogwood, evergreen dogwood that I have in my front garden space. It takes all season for that to happen. They flowered in the spring like any other dogwood, and then slowly but surely those fruit form. Again, this bed edge still looks great going into early fall with the gomphrena and the pentas. I've got this salvia that has the black stems, which is quite beautiful. And one other thing that I've just really loved this season is this. This is a hardy begonia that's a Zone 7 hardy begonia called Sterling Moon. And the flowers on this thing are just spectacular. I mean, the foliage by itself would sell this plant, but look at the flowers. And it's just flowered like this all season long. Of course, here right beside it, there's some Terenia that's almost done. So you can see this transition happening with some things that will go well into the fall and some things that are, almost done for the season at this point. Over here is a gold pineapple sage, and it's another late summer, early fall bloomer, so I expect to start seeing some buds on it pretty soon. And this gold is just out of this world. This is a very marginal plant for me. Don't know if it'll come back next season or not. Don't really care. Look how beautiful it's been all season long, and again, I'm gonna have blooms on it in the fall. So thank you guys for following along with the channel. As you can tell, what motivates me in my garden is inviting all of these other things to enjoy my labor in the landscape. This design wouldn't be for everybody, definitely wouldn't be for everybody, but that's what's great about gardening, is everybody can look at the pieces and design with the pieces and use them in different ways, create a big pollinator garden like this, or a formal garden, or whatever it is. I would call my style almost clown college. That would probably be the name for it. But this is what I love. I love all this color, and I love coming out here in the middle of the day and watching all of these other things enjoy the space as well. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon.